welcome to episode 13 of the Making Stories podcast. I am Hannah-Lisa, one half of this podcast, and I'm making stories, and to my left or right is my wonderful colleague Claire. We do this every time.
I think I'm always, I don't know why I'm doing that because you're not here. I think I'm always like on the right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, my wonderful friend and colleague Claire, who's the other half of Making Stories and this podcast, and we're both so glad that you're here. So if you're a new viewer, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. So happy that you decide to spend some time with us, and I hope you have your knitting and a cup of tea or coffee. I have coffee. And want to spend the next 30 minutes or so with us. This is a podcast about knitting, and primarily we're talking about sustainable knitting. What does that mean? That means we're talking about sustainable yarns, about obviously patterns that we're making that we have on the needles. But then also we're talking about other aspects of sustainability in knitting, like making sure that whatever you're working on actually fits you and that you like it and want to wear it for years and years to come. So yeah, that's what we're about. And today we're going to be diving into a recent blog post that Claire wrote about a particular thing that tends to happen with sweaters. And then we have a couple of things on the needles that we want to share. And that's about it.
Yay! It'll be fun.
Woo.
I'm excited. I'm excited to show you something new that's on my needles later. But yeah, first let's talk about the blog post. Because I've worn this sweater just for the occasion. Because the blog post is all about... Oh, hello. This blog post is all about fabric under the arms, that excess fabric, which you can see here quite clearly is happening a lot on this sweater. So this is the first sweater I ever knit. And I recently...
It looks so good.
Well, and we were talking about this during the pandemic. I was like, I'm going to start wearing that more. It was on my shelf and I always liked it because it was my first sweater. But I kept thinking, I should frog it back and make something that maybe fits me a little bit better. But then I started wearing it and I was like, I actually love this sweater, which we're going to talk about more at the end because I've got a little bit to add to this chat on the blog post, which is all about this, you know, if you end up with a lot of fabric at your underarms and it drives you crazy, there's a few things that I talk about in that blog post that you can maybe look at that could help solve that issue. So one of them is definitely yoke depth, which is something I always add extra. I've talked about this before. I like a lot of room under my arms. So I
Me
always,
too.
I don't like feeling restricted. I get sweaty. You know, I like to be able to breathe and move around. And the thing is, if you do have that extra length in the yoke, it does lead to extra fabric. And it can bunch up and it can do things and you may not like that. So if that's one of the things, that's quite an easier fix depending on what's actually happening in the yoke. If it's colour work and things like that, you have to kind of like look around adapting it. Luckily, we do have a whole blog series on adjusting length with stitch patterns and all that. So I'll link everything below if that's something you're interested in looking at. But I also found, I did a ton of research on it. And one of the other things that, I don't know if you've ever had to work with this, Hannah-Lisa, but like I've started looking more at the upper bust measurement and the full bust measurement now when I'm looking at sweaters, which is something that I've never really done as much in the past. If you don't know...
upper bust, as in if you're a person with boobs, you would measure sort of just before they start.
Yeah.
Right?
Wait, I've got my tape measure. I'll show you exactly where the measurement is. Tilly doesn't like my tape measure. Well, it's much easier
I
to
love
do
it. It's
this
fine.
without a foot. There you go. Put your head down, you silly goose. She's sleepy today. I took her to doggy daycare 2 days ago and she took it herself out. So, anyway. Upper bust measurement would go right under your underarms and across. Oh, this is going to be... So it kind of goes across like where your underarm is and the top part of your bosom, really the top part of your chest. So that would be your upper bust measurement, and then your full bust measurement would be the widest point.
The widest.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting to do this demonstration today, but actually it's a good thing to do because it's better than just explaining it. So that would be your full bust measurement. So the theory is, if you think about a sweater construction, so let's take this one for example. This was actually knit bottom up, but let's for a second pretend it was top down, although it applies the same either way. But Tilly's in the way. So if you're knitting down and you're constructing the yoke, we always get to the underarm, which is always going to be the widest part of our garment, and then you separate for the body and the sleeves, and then you knit straight. So what that means is you have enough fabric here to fit your full bust, but it's at your underarms. Yeah. I know, and it wasn't until I started, because this is something that came up, so this topic of the excess fabric under the arms and bust adjustments for a larger bust was something that kept coming up when we were talking about blog posts on pattern adjustments. So, and it's not something I have a ton of experience with, so I've been doing a lot of reading of different blogs and different tutorials and everything over the past couple of months, and I found this really interesting. I never really thought about it, and I do have, especially now as I've got a little older, I don't have quite as much padding at the top of my bosom as I used to, which has definitely adjusted the difference in that measurement. Yeah. So the theory is the bigger the difference between that measurement and this measurement, the more issues you're probably going to come across here.
That makes a lot of sense. I never thought about it like that, but it makes a lot of sense.
It makes a ton of sense, and it's super interesting. And it also goes a long way that if you have got a larger bust and you are very full busted, you can see exactly where these issues are coming up. And I can totally see why people can get frustrated and try and work out how to make adjustments with that. So the solution to that, unfortunately, isn't a super straightforward one. It's what you would do is you would pick a size based on your upper bust measurement, making sure it fits the shoulders and all of that. And then as you get into the body, you do what's called a full bust adjustment. There are different ways of doing this. They're all quite technical, because the problem is if you're a sewer, you've probably come across this and seen bust adjustments all the way through. And of course, if you have a piece of fabric and your pattern's already on there, it's quite easy to make these adjustments. With knitting, it's not so much, because you're dealing with shaping and stitch patterns and all the rest of it. So it's quite a tricky topic. What I'm doing at the moment, so I don't cover any of that in this blog post, honestly, because it's a huge subject. And also I want to make sure whatever I'm writing for people also comes from a place of some sort of base of knowledge, and I've never done that. So I've got an ongoing post that I'm writing that's kind of collecting information I'm finding, but also a lot of resources to help people do that, and hopefully it'll be helpful a little later down the line. But for now, if that's something like the excess fabric, if that's something that you're struggling with and you've never really considered that, it might just be whip your tape measure out and give your bosoms a measure and your chest and just see if that could be causing the problem, because it could be something that you can then troubleshoot, because it's with raglan especially, it's a big problem there. That's where it'll really show up. And yoke sweaters, if you've got a set-in sleeve, you're always going to get probably a better fit for the set-in sleeve, obviously depending on your body shape, but yeah, definitely look out for it with raglan. But I thought it was super interesting. I thought it'd be fun to share today on the post and show off what it actually looks like when you've got excess fabric going on.
It's so interesting though that you mentioned that this tends to happen more with yokes and with raglans, because both are sweater shapes that I don't feel super comfortable in. And I've always thought that it has to do with that my bust measurement, my sort of cross back measurement, so sort of how wide I am at the shoulders, and then also my upper arm circumference don't usually mesh well with standard sizing.
Yeah, and that can be tricky too.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely truth to that, but I'm also thinking, because I mean, I used to have quite a big bust area. And so there was definitely sort of a larger difference between my upper bust circumference and then my full bust circumference. And now that I've breastfed, it's just moved down. So there's definitely been change there. Yeah. But I never really realized that can actually make such a big difference. So it would be interesting for me. Actually, I've actually just never taken both measurements and compared them. But it makes so much sense what you explained about the way that we ask designers to construct patterns. Then I'm like, I need to write all of this down now so that we can adjust our... Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I find it really interesting. And it is, I mean, as I said, unfortunately then going on to get into bust adjustments for the full bust, it can be really complicated, and there's no super, well, I'm saying this from what I'm reading and my level of knitting expertise, I find it quite complicated. I'm sure there are much more talented designers and knitters out there who also are used to dealing with this and have been, you know, adjusting for their own bust a lot in the past, so they might find this an absolute breeze. And actually, if you're watching this and this is something that you have to do a lot with your patterns, and you have a certain technique that you'd like to share with other people who may be watching this and thinking, I need to do that and I have no idea, please do let us know, because that's what these posts and these podcasts are all about as well, is just kind of everyone sharing the knowledge that we have, because I think that's part of knitting too, is kind of passing on each other's like little tips and tricks. So yeah, please do let us know. But one other thing I do want to say is one of the things I thought of when I was writing this blog post too is that what I don't want people to take away from these posts, like I want them to be helpful, but I also don't want them to read them and then, if you are sat with a sweater like me and you've got a lot of excess fabric under your arms and that's how you normally wear your sweaters, and you're reading it thinking, oh god, I didn't even think there was anything wrong with that, I thought that was just like, then that's absolutely fine. Please don't take
there is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, because this is how I look back at photos, like since I've been writing this blog post, I looked at all the photos that I've taken of FOs, and I almost always have a little bit of like bunching at the old underarm, because that's how I like being, like my armpits being free. I hate being constricted, and I know that a lot of other makers like quite a snug armpit and they don't like to feel like this is gaping, so everyone's different. So have a look at the blog post. If it helps you, fantastic. If you're wearing your sweaters like I'm wearing mine right now, and I've been wearing it all the way through the pandemic and absolutely loving it, also don't worry, you can go with your excess fabric under the armpits and you're absolutely fine. But yeah, I just wanted to add that. I didn't want anyone to start reading these blog posts about fit and think, oh god, I've been knitting, all my knits are wrong. They're definitely not. They're just, if you have any issues, any areas you want to kind of like tweak, then hopefully they'll help. So
yeah.
Oh yay.
Should I share what's on my needles?
I think so. I think that would be fun. Tilly's gone to complete sleep, by the way.
Tilly's like, oh, I want to sleep as well. But no, we're podcasting. No sleep. Yeah. I need more coffee. No. So, in the last episode, I shared my finished wild grass socks, and I also shared a little bit of progress on my bindweed. I haven't made any progress since, partly because, not fully because I just haven't worked on it. And that's because these weeks are just really, really full. There's a lot of exciting things happening. Also part of why we do this podcast is so that we can share a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff. And we're working on the layout of issue 6 at the moment, which is going to come out in September. But we're also preparing 2 really exciting things that we're going to be sharing about soon. You're going to see little sneak peeks in what I'm about to share with you. One has to do with something that we'll be launching in June, and the other one has to do with a super exciting, also very terrifying thing that I might sign next week if everything goes well.
It's going to be so exciting. I can't wait.
It's going to be so exciting. Yeah. So, yeah. But so all of that has meant that I just haven't had any brain capacity for more complex knitting work, which is also fine because I have tons of friends who have babies or are expecting babies. So I have tons of gift knitting to do, and also I have tons of swatching to do. And the first thing that I wanted to share with you today is sort of almost finished. Ooh, I hope it's gonna...
Oh, they're so
Aren't
cute.
they cute? They're so cute, right? So, you know that we put out the kids collection a little while ago, and it does have a sock pattern in there, but it doesn't have a booty pattern. And like little baby booties are actually one of my favorite things to gift to people, because you can always use them, and you can also always find, usually I can find yarn in my stash. And when my friend Ruta, who owns the wonderful yarn shop Woll in Berlin here in Berlin, had her little one a good while ago, almost a year ago now, I remember seeing on her Instagram feed this super cute pair of baby booties. And I was like, they look really cool. And so when I was looking for a pair of, like a booty pattern, not booty. Trust Annalisa to make this weird. I went back and actually searched for the pattern that she used, which is what I used, which is called the Suspension Bridge Booties by Mary Jane Thompson. It's a free pattern that you can find on Ravelry, maybe also on her website. I actually didn't check that. And it has a super cool construction because you actually knit them flat, so I still have to do the seaming. So this is how they look like.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and you start them here. Ooh. At like here, basically, you knit garter and increase, and then you do the top of the foot with really cool short row shaping.
Cute.
Make this cute little row of eyelets that is going to have an I-cord thing running through them, and then you end with a little cuff. And so then you have to do what I haven't done yet, which is seam here and here. So I really like that.
I
like
love the color as well.
Yeah, I took so sometimes, you know, designers will send us yarn leftovers with their samples, and so this is actually yarn leftovers from Twisted Vines. This is Echo View Fiber Mill Ranger DK.
I love that yarn.
Yeah, which is really nice. So I was really happy to get to work with it. And I'm really happy with how these turn out as well. They're a little bit big, but I'm thinking they'll also fit in the fall, so that's going to be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, kids grow so quick.
Highly recommend that pattern. Suspension Bridge Booties, Mary Jane Thompson. Maybe we can put in a link in the down bar below.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's really nice. And it knits up super quickly. I mean, I knit them in a DK weight, and I was done in like 2 hours with one bootie. So, yeah.
I have friends expecting too, and I'm horrible. I'm horrible at gift knitting. You're so good at it, and yeah, they might be something that I would get through quickly. My best friends back home, because I was supposed to go to the UK so many times, I have a knitted blanket for the little one that I made, and he's 2 now. when he was born.
That's fine.
So-
He'll still enjoy it. I think the benefit of these is, I mean, they're quick to whip up. You know, I think you're almost guaranteed to find something in your stash that works for them. Plus, you can just put them in an envelope. Like, it's not as if you have to have some complicated
It's true.
packaging thing, you know?
Ooh, I'm going to make those, I think.
Yeah. So that is one thing that I wanted to share with you. And the other thing is that I have a confession to make. I don't like swatching. I will, or have, always
Look at Tilly. She's in
optimize.
disgust.
Tilly's like, Annalisa, what is this? I will swatch, but I will also do tiny swatches so that I can get away with really, like, okay, I've done this.
Could do
I've
it as
blocked
quick as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's terrible because I know, like, I mean, you should make big swatches, and because that's the only way that you can actually measure whether it's actually going to be sort of what you can expect when you knit a bigger thing and stuff. But I'm always like, I just want to cast on now. It's fine.
And I've done that as well.
And so that's how I looked at swatching. And I also never really understood, you know, where people say, okay, you know, when you swatch, you get to know a yarn. And I'm like, yeah, but I actually just want to knit that sweater already. Like So, it turns out that I actually do enjoy swatching now.
Ooh,
I don't know
that's
why.
good.
But for this thing that we're launching in June, I started swatching earlier this week, and I have quite a few swatches that I have on my list to do. And I wanted to share a few that I've already finished with you. And I did them properly. Look, it's a big swatch.
Is that Marina's yarn?
It's Marina's yarn.
It's
I also did do the thing that you said in your blog post not to do, which is like a little garter border. But because they are going to be photographed, I wanted to.
Yeah.
I wanted them to be pretty, you know, and like I think it
think-
just looks a bit neater.
I think these swatches are to show off the yarn.
Yeah,
knit up.
exactly.
It's not to actually get a gauge. So
Yeah.
you're okay.
Yeah, and that is really like they're there to show off how the yarn knits up, how the fabric looks like, also how drapey it is.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and so I started my swatching journey with Marina's QS Mendip 4-ply. This is the Stormy base, which is the sort of heathered grey that she then dyed with yellow, and the colorway is called Bloom.
Oh, it's
and
beautiful.
it's one of my absolute favorite colors on the entire planet. And it's so good. Like, the yarn is so nice. And I knit these on 3.25 millimeter needles, which gives, you can see this. I mean, like, there's a
Yeah.
window behind me, so you can see that it's quite light.
It is.
But I think it's also gonna be, like, if you imagine that this could be like a sleeve, like, it's not as
it's
see-through
lovely.
as you think.
No, and I find Marina's yarn, both the DK and the 4-ply, you can really play around with the gauge on them really nicely.
Totally, yeah. And so that was the very first swatch that I did now, and I just really, really enjoyed it. Like, really enjoyed it.
Do you know why? It's because you're not actually you're not like racing to get to
Yep.
the cast on the thing. You just
Yep.
enjoy knitting with the yarn.
I get it now. Like, I get like, I'm so excited now for all of those swatches that I'm going to be knitting, because it's all going to be about the yarn. Like, it's not about the pattern. It's just about yarn and experimenting. And it's just not something that I've actually ever gotten, you know? Like, like, why is this a thing? So, yeah. So I finished that swatch in the Mendip 4-ply. And then I also did this one, because I wanted to show how it looks like in a stitch pattern. And this is from issue 2, The Contorta Head by Carolyn Kern. That's designed for this yarn. Yeah, I really, really like it. And it's so funny how, you know, the feel of a fabric can change based on what you do with it. Yeah. So, I mean, this is knit on slightly smaller needles. This is a 2.75 mil and this is a 3.25. But it's like, this feels a lot crispier and you can see how this is a lot stiffer, which is also because of the stitch pattern.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I love that pattern. I've knit that pattern for Chris. So Chris has that hat. But I knit it in the Fibre Company Loss, which is a DK. So I had to make some modifications, and I did a folded, what do they call it? A join brim, not a folded brim.
Yeah.
It's such a fun pattern to knit. It's so like, if anyone needs a hat
super
pattern,
fun.
I love that one.
It's super nice, super intuitive. It's also really good if you've ever wanted to learn cabling without a cable needle. Yeah, this is a good pattern to practice, because there are quite a few smaller cables in there, but it's nothing complicated and, you know, where you need to remember a lot of different cables.
Yeah.
Plus, if you knit it in like a stickier yarn like the Mendip 4-ply or also Fiber Coast Lure, it's also quite sticky, you know, you're not losing any stitches. So that was the 4-ply, and I followed that up. Those swatches are actually, they've just come out of the blocking bath, so they're not dry yet. Yeah, I followed this up with the DK. And this is just the undyed sheep, which has a different, like, so on the DK in Marina's in Marina's yarn, the sheep is a gray, whereas in the 4-ply, so I can just share this. So this is the sheep, the undyed in the DK, and this is it in the 4-ply.
Oh, I never knew that.
Which I actually never realized before. Me neither, but it's super interesting. And so, you know, this is why, like, I find this so interesting that she now has the same color range on both bases, because it means that the recipes must also be a bit different, because the colors are the same.
I think that just shows just how crazy talented Marina is as well, though. Yeah, because it kind of
she is.
It kind of boggles my mind, the colors she can get and on the different bases and things. So,
and they were so good. And so for this, so this is not gonna look super pretty because it's not dry as a set. But for the DK weight, I wanted to swatch
Sarcactus.
A bit of color work. Sarcactus. So
I love it.
So it's in the, like, I chose to do like a lower contrast version with the teal and the sheep. So the colorway is the contrast color is the teal, which I actually really like. I know that Marina, I think, thinks that this contrast is not high enough, but I actually like it. Like, I quite and it like doesn't show up as well as,
I like
and it's gonna be in. Yeah, sorry, you go ahead.
No, I was saying I kind of like it both ways. I like a high contrast, but every now and again, if it's kind of like a subtle pattern, I think that works really nicely too.
The funny thing is, now that I look at it, is I changed skeins a little way into the pattern, and you can definitely see the difference in dye lots, which is why you should always pay attention to dye lots. I don't know if that actually shows up well on camera.
I can't tell on camera that you've changed. Okay. Maybe I will when we edit.
Yeah. So anyways, that was just something that I wanted to share. Those are things, because that's going to be quite a bit of the knitting that I'll be doing over the next few weeks. And you'll be seeing a little bit of that also on Insta Stories and then later in June. So if you're curious about the journey from skein to these swatches, I usually take photos or little videos while I'm working on them. And then I put them all in an Insta Story once I'm done. So
it's going to be exciting. I can't wait to share with everyone what we're actually up to. It's going to be good.
Me neither. It's going to be so good. Speaking of what we're up to, what do you have on your needles?
Ooh, well, one thing I showed last week, and I'm going to show quickly again now because I did some work on it last night, is...
Oh, it's looking so good.
Isn't it looking good? I can never work out which way to go. Isn't it looking really good? I'm so excited, and it's really addicted. It's so this was supposed to be my this will be my project that I just have on the needles, and I'll pick up and I'll knit it all over the summer, and it'll take me forever. And I mean, I'm still a little ways, I'm only just really started, but I can't not knit on it. I keep thinking I need to knit other things, and it keeps pulling me back in. Because it's just so relaxing. So this is Watershed. This is from issue 5, and this isn't the recommended yarn. The recommended yarn is Luma from the Fibre Co. But I didn't have any, and I really want to cast it on. And but I did have the Gilet from Diruma Naturelle. Did it pronounce it?
Yep, Diruma Naturelle.
That's
Yep.
the one. And I'm obsessed. It basically looks like, look how 3D it's gone. I think that's because of the woolen spun. I mean, it is with the Luma
so
too,
cool.
but it's, oh, I love the
But
texture.
it's definitely more 3D in the woolen spun. It's
I think
so
so.
nice. Like,
Isn't
I
it
love the
beautiful?
effect.
I cannot wait.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
Q, our designer on this, is, if you haven't checked out her other work too, check it out, because the gorgeous cables in this and the way she's got the flow going through, that's not a one-off fluke. Like, all of her designs, her cables are stunning. They're so beautiful. She put on Instagram one of her cowls the other day, and I'm not normally a cowl person. I was like, whoa, the texture on it's just so nice. I need to add it to my queue. So yeah. So that's what I've been working on, and I've been really loving that. So if you're looking for quite like a relaxing kind of like something that you need to do another few rows of because you can see it growing, then I highly recommend that. And the other thing that's on my needles, I have a pair of socks on my needles, which hasn't happened.
Whee!
God, I can't remember when the last time was I had socks on. I think it's when I knit Chris's socks, which is why I've not knit socks in such a long time. Because he always wants just vanilla socks.
Big feet.
And he's got big feet. And he's always going to throw them in the washing machine, so I have to use something. So it tends to be yarn that I'm not really super excited about, because I don't love knitting with superwash yarn. But so he's ruined me for socks for a while. But I think I'm cured, because I have... Let me see if I can just...
These are so cute.
Aren't they cute? So these are the stone fruit socks. And these are by Rain Cloud and Sage by our good friend Ruth. So Ruth put out a ebook recently all about knitting socks with natural yarn. So this is Nord, this is Ruth's yarn. She makes the most beautiful yarn. It's always with such a lovely origin story. She actually started off, I mean, we've used her yarn in for Mainstay, so if you join the newsletter, you'll also get a pattern Mainstay there, and that uses Ruth's yarn as well, and I think that's Nord held double. But she also has Origin, and she's got a really exciting new yarn coming up soon too.
She does.
She started Rain Cloud and Sage because she saw that the local sheep farmers, they couldn't sell their yarn because it wasn't of a certain grade and it was getting burned. So that's how Rain Cloud and Sage started, was she was saving those fleeces and spinning them into something beautiful. And it's just gone on from there. And her new ebook is all about knitting socks with natural sock yarn. So non-superwash, no plastic in them. But what I love about it, it has really practical advice, because it's all very well to say, hey, you shouldn't have nylon in, try not to use superwash, you should use natural sock yarn. Problem is, it can take a little extra work and looking after. It's not as simple if you don't want too much wear in them. There's certain things you can do, certain stitch patterns to use. So she dives into all of that. She and she's got 3 really cute sock patterns in there, which are beautiful. And this is one of them. These are just like a little pair of spring ankle socks. And I love them in this really soft pink. This is, I think this colourway is also called Stone Fruit. So it's a Stone Fruit sock. Yeah, it is. And it is.
Yeah.
I should know that. I did a whole sweater in it. So yeah, this is on my needles and I'm loving it. And it's that kind of pattern where I had to go to the doctor's weight room recently. So it's kind of nice. I could just grab them, and so it's got like this broken rib on the front, but it's like 3 knit stitches and then the broken rib, and I love it. And the cuff's just like this really sweet.
The cuff's super cute.
Isn't it cute? It reminds me of which I shouldn't like really because I hated it. When I was younger, my parents used to make me do you ever have like walking day kind of a thing? Is that like an English thing? It was like you had to like go, I think it was something to do with the church, which doesn't make any sense because
is it like fundraising? Really you have to walk like a certain
do, but it wasn't, no one was raising any money. I never saw the point. I wasn't super into doing the church things when I was younger, so it didn't stick. I used to hate it. However, you always got a new dress for the occasion, and you wore these like little ankle socks with your shoes, little frilly things, and kind of reminds me of that a little bit, which was always my favorite part of it. So yeah.
Yeah, those are so cute, and I keep thinking I need to cast on a pair of like ankle socks because I'm a big fan of like turning up your jeans cuffs, like now that it's actually getting warmer. I'm in like full mom outfit thing. Like I have the mom jeans with like the crop t-shirt thing, and then like yeah, sometimes though I'm at the playground and I look at other moms who are more in like the punk or like really stylish kind of thing. I'm like, ooh, I'm kind of frumpy. Anyways, I like my look. I'm very happy. What was happening with the camera there? Hello, camera. The camera was like, I don't like your look. Okay, camera, I don't care. What I was trying to say was I've been wearing my mom jeans, but also my skinny jeans with the cuffs turned up. Yeah. And then I have these sneakers, and there's just that tiny bit of skin, you know? And I think it would be super cute just having like fun hand knit socks sticking out of the sneakers and like a fun color.
Be so cute. So you should definitely do that, because I'm the same way. So basically we have the same style, skinny jeans, and I like turning them up. I keep trying to wear more dresses at the moment because I have a ton of dresses. But I just want to go back into my skinny jeans all the time because if you look directly at my legs after being covered so long, you'll go blind in the sunlight. But I like turning them up and having the little cuff, and then I never know what socks to wear with them. And then if you go sockless, because I'm the same, I've got like little sneaker type things, you know, you can get away with it for so long, but at some point if you go sockless in those, they're gonna get stinky. Mine do anyway. You can only go so long without wearing socks, so I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, so you inspired me. Yay. So maybe I'm going to cast on those stone fruit socks as well.
Yeah, you definitely should. I'll add the link to the ebook below in case anyone else wants to do them. And right now, Ruth has a Cowl running. You don't have to have the ebook. You don't have to be knitting one of her patterns. You don't have to be using her yarn. It's the Stay Home. I think it's Stay Home Sock Cowl 2021. Yeah. But I'm going to double check that, and I'll put that below, and she's doing that on Instagram with that hashtag. If you're knitting socks at the moment and you want to join in on a sock cowl, which will be fun. I'm doing it, so.
Oh, that's so fun.
Cool.
Alrighty, I think that was everything.
Yes, that's everything.
This week. Yay! Do let us know in the comment below what your thoughts are on the underarm fabric thing. Also, if you have anything fun on the needles, we always love to see. And if you like this episode, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe if you want to see more of our videos, forward it to a friend, or 2 or 5, your entire knit group.
Yes, please do. And if
You
you
want
want
to
to
share the love.
subscribe, oh yeah, definitely share the love. And we also have a newsletter that goes out every Tuesday. So if you're not subscribed to that, as I said, you get Mainstay, our hat pan, for free when you subscribe. I'll put the link below, and please do join us on that too.
Yep. Alrighty, lovelies. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.